What's up, everyone? How you doing? Captain Jeff here. This is episode 6 of Catch Flights, Not Feelings. I have Andrea with me. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Jeff. How are you?
Good. Thank you for joining me. I recently met her.
Thank you for inviting me.
No problem. I recently met her through a friend, and I thought she was super weird and quirky. A little bit out there. So I was like, she would probably make for good material for the podcast. So,
well, Jeff, I think you only think I'm quirky because you haven't left Brickell.
Well, first of all, I live in Edgewater, okay? But
whatever.
You live in the suburbs or whatever. But tell us a little bit about...
I live out, near the Everglades.
Yeah.
At night, I shapeshift into a panther.
Do you?
Yeah.
So
Miami native.
Tell us a little bit about your background and yourself.
Well, I was born and raised in Miami. I was born right around here in Mercy Hospital. Mm-hmm. I've lived here all my life, and we are not what people think we are. Miami girls are not just the girls you see on Instagram with, big tits that have been put through the machine. We're not all that. But if you, only stay in Brickell, that's all you're going to see.
No big tits. I can tell you don't have big tits, so thanks for the observation.
Yeah.
Although a lot of people you said you're part Cuban and Colombian.
Yeah, no, it's huge. Plastic surgery is huge in that culture. But I personally think that women are being lied to. We're being lied to. We're being, capitalizing on our insecurities. And it's fucking bullshit. Because what they really need, I need a boob job like I need a lobotomy. But I don't. They're both suggested.
Yeah.
So
why don't you get a boob job? Wouldn't you want more attention?
Because I don't want that. I don't care. I'm already a target. I have a vagina between my legs. And most people think that belongs to them. I come across a man, I hang out with him too long. Yeah. He thinks I owe him my vagina.
I always did find it weird when women make themselves look very sexual and then they don't like the attention they get from men. It's like if you got a big boob job and you wear shirts that show your tits and you're pissed at a guy staring at your chest, that's on you. Right? Because if you wear a baggy hoodie, no one's going to look twice at you. So it's funny because they want the attention, they crave it, and then sometimes they get pissed off when they get the attention, which I think is very hypocritical.
Can I be honest with you? Most of those girls watched the Playboy Mansion growing up, as I did. I thought that was cool. A lot of girls thought they glamorized it. They glamorized the blonde hair, big tits, be dumb. Like that song Pink, Stupid Girls. Everybody wants to be a stupid girl because everybody loves a stupid girl because it's easier. And
there's more control.
I think that don't be a stupid girl. Be weird. Be yourself. Be rare. Be a rare bird. Don't be afraid to be a flamingo amongst a bunch of doves that just went through the machine.
Wow.
Because that is
so
bullshit.
Philosophical. Very, very philosophical. So you were married, though.
I am still married. I'm in a situationship in my marriage.
So tell me about how a woman that's married and is a lesbian. So you're married to a man, but you're still a lesbian. Talk about that.
I'm bisexual, really, but
you prefer women, though, at this point.
I think at this point I realized that men really just don't like big women. They want to make you small. If they see you a little too big.
Like physically or a personality?
Personality-wise.
Okay,
it doesn't matter.
You're not that big.
No. Okay. If my personality takes up a lot of fucking space.
It does. I can tell.
And it makes a lot of men intimidated. And I feel that men just can't handle me anymore.
You're like too alpha for the man.
I am too alpha.
You're too alpha.
Like I brought my dick with me, You
brought a dick. Okay.
Yeah, I brought my dick. I figured I would need a dick to be on the show with you because you're always bringing up the fact that we have a vagina, like if it's the biggest thing in the world. So my vagina's not dipped in gold, but this dick.
So is that how you get off?
Makes me come every time. So never hits, never misses.
Is it true? So my friend that's married, he said his wife never fucks him. So you don't really have sex with your husband anymore?
No, I used to fuck my husband. I love fucking my husband. But then, when you're the big dick energy in the room, your husband kind of doesn't want to fuck you anymore.
So you think
he wants to fuck somebody that makes him feel like a man because you're a little too much sometimes.
Yeah, I can tell if I talk to you for the first 5 minutes, you're too much. How long have you been married for?
6 years.
Your husband should be up for sainthood dealing with you for 6 years. That's insane.
He is a saint. We should put a statue up for him of him and Kendall.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I could barely tolerate you for 5 minutes.
Oh, my father hates me. He's a man like you.
So you have daddy issues.
No, I love my dad. But I fight with him equally as much as I love him. The more you love someone, the more you hate them.
You're both like butted heads.
I am my father's daughter. I am everything that he never wanted his little girl to be because I am exactly like him. I am him in a mirror as a woman. So I think that's hard to deal with.
So that's pretty much like your husband's attracted to men then. So he's pretty much like fucking your dad.
No, I was a little more naive when I got with my husband. I was a little more... I think when I like a guy, I try to tone it down a little. I try to be a little more less alpha, but I've gotten to a point where I'm 30 now and I'm like, I don't give a fuck if you like me or not. Like,
So your
I
husband,
just don't care anymore.
your husband doesn't fuck you anymore. So now
No, he
you're-
does actually.
He does. How often do you guys have sex?
Once a week, twice a week.
Once a week. So tell me about
At least once or twice a week. If not, I'll go fuck someone else.
really. So you have like at this point, it's like almost like an open marriage.
Yeah, at some point, but
You're
I mean, he
separate, you're
doesn't
like-
want it to be an open marriage. But that's why at this point, I've promised him that I'm not gonna have sex with anyone. Julian, I'm not having sex with anybody besides you. And
Unless
this
it's a woman.
dildo.
What about if it doesn't count as cheating if it's a woman though? Does it? Does he care if you fuck women?
I think at this point, he's scared that I might just like move on in total. So seeing me with anyone is gonna
So
be
he still
devastating.
wants to be married to you.
He wants to be married to me sometimes, and then he hates me, and then he loves me, and then he hates me.
That sounds very
because-
healthy. Sounds like very healthy.
Super
right?
toxic.
Hence why I'm single, because I don't want to deal with this bullshit drama. So what are you gonna do?
But not all marriages are like this. It's just
50%. I mean, half of them.
the thing is that nothing is perfect. Everybody makes it seem like marriage is this perfect sanctity that you're supposed to, but it's not. It's super messy, and no one has ever talked about it because we just had the internet. We just started streaming our lives not too long ago. But realistically, marriages have been complicated forever. I mean, my grandfather's mistress is buried in the same cemetery as my grandparents.
Awkward.
Okay,
That's
he
awkward.
paid for her. He paid for her tomb. Imagine, and my
Jeez.
grandmother's right next to him. They're in the same mausoleum in the same tomb, and the mistress is right around the corner. It's like she never left.
That's gotta be awkward if there is a heaven. All three of them up in heaven.
Probably no, but I know the mistress is in heaven for sure. She was a good
That's
mistress.
gotta be weird. So tell me about this. I know the other day you told me about this Madonna whore complex. I want to hear about that. Tell me about.
Well, it's
what that is.
basically when you're a mom, right? How do you look at your mom?
I look at my mom like she's like a warrior. You know, someone that worries a lot.
You don't see your mom as a whore, right?
No.
You don't see her as sexy, right?
No.
Do you think your dad thinks your mom is sexy?
They're divorced, but I'm sure at one point he probably thought she was hot.
Probably before she was your mom.
Probably.
Okay. So that's the Madonna whore complex right there.
So it's essentially a man loses attractiveness to his partner because he looks at her more like a mother instead of a sexual partner.
Yes. Or he looks at her more as a nurturing figure, saint-wise. She gets put up on the shelf. She is the perfect bride. She is the Stepford wife, the angel, the one that puts up with everything, doesn't ask questions, stays home, behaves, cooks, makes sure the house is beautiful, looks beautiful, and shouldn't ask or be concerned about what the man is doing outside of the house. That's what,
So that's called the Madonna whore complex, and that was.
That's what most men think.
Do you know who popularized that hypothesis?
I actually don't. Do you?
Don't. I'm not sure. It's like Freud or something one of those.
Freud said a bunch of strange things, like people are attracted to everybody and men want to secretly fuck their moms, but
I don't know. But either way, I think that I can agree with certain aspects of that, but I think the majority of the time when a man doesn't want to fuck his wife anymore, it's just because he's sick of fucking the same woman over and over. Not necessarily because
And you don't think that woman hasn't faked an orgasm in that marriage?
I'm sure they do.
To make sure that his ego doesn't get deflated, because men's egos are so fragile that we have to feed into it.
Yeah, but it's not the same thing. You could fake an orgasm, but that doesn't change the fact that the guy's just sick of fucking you. And that, I think every man, after a while, I have a phrase I say, for every hot girl there is.
I agree. Every man, my dad says that too.
There's
For
a
every
guy
man, there's
sick
a guy who's sick of her.
Sick of fucking her,
And there's
yeah.
my father also said that a cute ass only gets you to 30, so you better have more to offer.
Yeah, so I think that this Madonna whore complex thing is just, at the end of the day, instead of him thinking you're like the Virgin Mary that doesn't want to be fucked, he's just like, I've been fucking this pussy for the past 10 years. She's my mother of my kids. Her body isn't the same anymore after having kids. He's just sick of fucking her and he wants mistresses. And that's kind of probably how I'll be too. And that's why part of the reason why I haven't gotten married
But would you
yet.
get your wife's body done to make sure she looks good?
Yeah, well.
Or are you going to let your wife, the value of the car go down because you now own it?
No, I would only marry a woman that was extremely fit. One of those girls that's very self-conscious.
Let me ask you something. What happens when you're 80?
Well, by that time, who gives a fuck? I'll probably be practically dead. So priorities in life change.
No, you won't be. What
But
happens?
it doesn't matter. What happens is priorities change, right? So right now, in my 30s, 40s, 50s, I want someone that's young and beautiful. But when I'm in my 60s, 70s, 80s, then obviously it's going to be different. Just like I'm a different man now than I was when I was 18.
That
we
is
evolve.
true.
So, but right now, as a man that still has high sexual energy, I want a woman that can keep up with me in the bedroom, that looks good. So that's why I like dating girls that are like gym rats, that like go to the gym constantly, have these perfect bodies. Because those type of girls, once they have kids, they're going to bounce back pretty quick usually because they're too
Yeah.
superficial and self-conscious. I love it when a girl's like, oh my God, I gained 3 pounds, I'm fat. Well, I like that. I like it when she says that because that means that she's going to try really hard to maintain a perfect body. Do you know there's this guy, this super rich guy, in his prenum, he said for every pound that his wife gains, she loses like $1 million from the divorce settlement.
Well, everybody, you can tell the kind of man he is by the kind of woman he has. So
Yeah. But my point is that I think that a lot of men are superficial. And if they marry this and then after having kids, she turns into this, they're going to be pissed. So that's just, I'm not saying that's the reason why you still look like you have a good body, whatever. I'm not saying it has anything to do with why your husband wants to fuck other women.
The thing is that you probably date younger women too because you think that, you know, with the youth, it is true. You do bounce back sooner. But I think that just takes genetics. And I think that is a really shallow approach because what happens if, you know, somebody comes, you lose your 2 legs tomorrow? That girl's not going to stay with you. You have to be with somebody who's going to want to actually...
Well, it depends how big your third leg is, the one in the middle, right?
Yeah, but after a while, you get tired of fucking a cripple, so...
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. It's...
The same way you don't want to fuck a woman that, you know, after she had your kids and she doesn't look as good because she lost value after marrying and having your children. You know, if you lost value because you lost your legs or you no longer can get it up because your spine doesn't work anymore, who's going to be with you? I mean, what do you have to offer?
Yeah, but that's a far stretch right there. It's just a guy that's going to lose both his legs.
So what would you do in that situation?
Well, all right, so there's...
Do you ever think about that when you're choosing
there
women?
are 2 different things, right? So one thing is beyond someone's control. Let's say they get into a bad car accident, they lose both their legs, it's a tragedy. The second thing is a woman having kids and just being lazy and not want to fucking lose that baby fat. You can't compare.
What if she's not lazy?
Different.
What if she has postpartum? What if she has to deal with an asshole like you who's constantly judging her while she's trying to navigate her new motherhood journey that she's never been on before and something that you wouldn't know about because you're not a woman and you wouldn't even understand or have empathy for it because how could you?
I would hire a nanny to help out around the house. I would get her a scale.
There we go.
I would get her a scale to weigh herself.
Would you get a dietitian? She wouldn't have to cook for herself. Make sure she goes to the spa once a week. You got to make sure your woman looks good. If your woman doesn't look good, that's your fault. That's on you, honey.
Yes, I would provide the tools necessary for her to look good. But at the end of the day, it's up to her to, after she has a kid, to clean up her diet and go to the gym, right? And that's something that I'll provide the tools.
I agree.
If she doesn't want to, if she just wants to just let herself go because she's like, oh, the guy's trapped, I have his kids, he's not going anywhere, that's bullshit. Because
no, that's just giving up on life.
Yeah.
That's not loving yourself. I think that there's a fine line between not giving a fuck and not loving yourself. And, you know, I don't give a fuck, but I love myself. You know, I'm not going to go out to the extremes to go get plastic surgery or to alter myself completely. But I accept myself, you know. I accept myself for who I am. And that's it.
When's the last time you hooked up with a girl?
I hooked up with a girl when I was pregnant.
How long ago was that?
8 years ago.
Oh, wow. So
I had just found out I was pregnant. I had been hooking up with a lot of chicks because I was partying at the gay scene with my bestie, Christian. Shout out to Christian. Yeah, so I was going to Wilton Manor a lot. That was my stomping grounds. Is down in Broward where the weirdos go and the weirdos play all night. Someplace you'd never go.
No.
Wilton Manor, you know, if you know. I used to spend a lot of time there and, you know, you meet people. You meet some interesting souls and you have a good time.
And your husband, since you're a lesbian or bisexual...
I met my husband at my previous job where I used to work at the flight school.
But why doesn't he want to bring women home? Would you be down to give him 3 ways? I mean, he's sick of fucking you.
He's not sick of fucking me. I think he's just intimidated because he comes back around. I mean, it's funny. After I cheated on him, it's suddenly he's like chasing me like never before. It's like, oh, wow, she can get dick, other dick.
But how long ago did you cheat on him?
I cheated on him I want to say 6 months ago.
And how did you meet the guy?
September. Back in September. He was the father of my child. I just went back to an ex for one night.
So the man you're married to is not the father of your child?
No.
Oh, okay. So
I've been around the block just like you, babe.
Yes, yeah. So you fucked the father of your child. Do you still like the father of your child? Do you still have feelings for him?
I think he's a nice guy, but no, I don't have feelings for him.
Do you rather, if you had to be married to one person, you'd rather be married to the guy you're with now?
Yes.
Okay. What is, are you allowed to tell me, is he a provider? Does he have a good job? What's he do for a living?
He's a provider.
Yeah.
He's going to the airlines, but he was essentially a student pilot when I met him. Oh. But now he's also working to get his captain's license on the boat. So
Okay. And you told me you worked for a flight school before. What did you do for the flight school?
I did a little bit of everything, including selling flight training courses. So that was lots of fun. I got to meet a bunch of cool, interesting people from all over the world.
Flight training courses. Okay. And then you said the flight school you worked for was like a little bit shady. Do you want to like tell me a little bit about
no,
that?
not the flight school that I worked for. They weren't shady. Not as bad as the place that we took over, because we bought out the building where Dean International was. Dean International was a flight school that shut down a couple years back in 2016 for having too many accidents, pilot error accidents.
So
you could actually look up what happened in Dean International, but I could tell you one of the fun stories that basically there's this guy from like Nigeria, one of the student pilots. He took the plane in the middle of the night. He flew over the Everglades, got disoriented, crashed, and they found only his head.
So was he not supposed to take the plane?
No.
Was he not?
I heard that. Well, from what I heard from word of mouth from people who worked at that flight school before, they told me that he was not night rated to fly at night.
So he took it up when he wasn't supposed to.
When he wasn't supposed to.
And then he crashed, got disoriented, and then alligators ate everything but his head, essentially.
Basically.
Wow.
In the Everglades.
What year? How long ago was that?
That was, I think, 2015.
Wow. So a lot of times when flight schools
Or
have
2016, around that time.
bad safety records is because they're greedy and they just want to...
Or they're cutting corners. They're not...
Cutting corners because they want to make profit higher.
Exactly.
When you cut corners, you're trying to save money. And then you're putting people through flight school that shouldn't be going through because they don't give a shit. They just want the paycheck. So.
Yeah. Well, the flight school I worked at, they were very good at that, luckily. So they were not shady like the previous people that were in that building.
The one that you guys took over.
Yeah, we took over the building. And we ended up taking a lot of their students and, helping them out. But it was a really sad situation. And then the last crash before the school had shut down, it was 2 students, an examiner on a check ride.
Wow.
On one of the other airplanes, everybody died. So it was really sad.
That's why I don't fly GA
May they rest
anymore.
in peace.
Yeah, I don't fly single engine planes. I don't do
Really?
any of that
You're
shit.
scared of that? That's so boring.
Well, most accidents do happen in single engine planes, so I just don't want to be a statistics. So that means
you're not a good enough pilot.
I'm good.
I've flown with my dad plenty of times on those Cessnas, and nothing's ever happened.
But you could be the best pilot in the world. You lose your engine, and
but that's just like driving a car. I mean, think about it. The statistics of getting into a crash in an airplane is not as high as getting into a car crash.
It's still low. Obviously, it's still
car crash
safe,
is higher though.
But the amount of accidents that happen in general aviation are like 100 times greater than in airlines. So if you are going to get in crash in
look at what's been
aviation-
happening lately. I mean, we can't say that because recently there's been a lot of shit show going on with aviation in the big
airlines,
in the big airlines.
In the airlines, but it's still a tiny. There's millions of flights a day. It's still very safe, and trust me, you can look it up later on ChatGPT or whatever.
So do you still fly?
I do, but I'm on leave a little bit now from the airline, but I fly big commercial jets, but I have no interest in flying a small prop plane. Number one, I'm too bougie for it. There's no air conditioning, no pressurization.
Aw, you're no fun. You're pussy.
Yeah, I don't. So
you've never taken a girl on a date flying?
No, after I finished flight school.
So what's the best date you've been on with all these 1,200 women that you've dated?
So I've take girls traveling on vacation, but I don't.
But you're you're a pilot, but you let somebody else fly the plane.
No, I've had girls that.
That just tells me everything about you, Jeff.
No, you're wrong.
Tells me everything.
You're wrong. I've flown girls on a commercial airliner.
You
to
heard
Hawaii.
it, guys. He flies girls on commercial air flights to Hawaii. So hit up Jeff, guys.
Yeah.
He can do this for you.
But no, what I'm saying is
that's the benefit of dealing with this asshole.
Instead of me taking a little small plane where we may get killed, I have taken girls in the past on flights that I was operating to different locations. A couple months ago,
of course, because I know you're allowed to do that when you're an airline pilot. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, benefits, yeah.
Good.
So I took a girl to Montreal.
So it's never been an exclusive date with Jeff on a Cessna. He's too scared.
I'm too much of a pussy.
But he flies 747s?
Big commercial jets, yeah.
747, what do you fly?
No one flies 747s anymore in the U.S., but I fly Airbus.
Okay.
Yeah, Airbus 321. But
okay.
Yeah, so if you ever want to come on my flight.
So why don't people fly 747s anymore?
Well, U.S. airlines don't. None of the U.S. airlines have 747s. Number one, they're very old aircraft, and number two, they hold a lot of people, and we just have too many airlines for the airline to justify a 747.
I would never catch you in the what is that called? That aircraft? It's like an amphibian. The Icon. The Icon aircraft. I wouldn't catch you in one of those.
I don't know.
It's
maybe.
like an Atlantis aircraft. It's kind of cool.
Maybe. I don't know too much about that one. But
the Icon? You haven't heard of it?
I think I know what you mean. I think I've seen it. It goes on the lands on the water.
It literally looks like a flying jet ski.
Yeah, I would like
It looks like an Atlantis kind of airplane. It looks very futuristic.
I would like to fly that one day, especially living in Miami.
If you do, take me with you.
Yeah.
Please. Yeah. That's my dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, because those Icons are fucking expensive. So I know you got the bank for it,
yeah,
baby.
Yeah, soon.
So if once you go up on Icon, I'll be the one with balls to go on with you.
Cool. Then we could join the Mile High Club together. It sounds like fun.
Yeah, you can. I don't think that'll be possible because I'd have to fuck you, and I have a dildo, so I don't think it's physically possible for you to bend over while you're flying.
That's a pretty big dildo. It looks like
you could take it?
It looks like that they just took a mold of my penis actually, and made a dildo for you. So I hope you clean this fucking thing. Why the hell did you bring this anyway? To hit me with it? Like, well, do you put this whole thing in your?
I want to see. Okay. So you want everybody to suck your dick? Blah blah blah. Can you suck your own dick?
No. I'd make the worst gay person in the world because my gag reflex is horrible. Like, if I put it in like this much, I would start gagging. I have a really bad gag reflex.
Has anybody ever stuck fingers in your butt, Jeff?
No, and I'm not interested
You didn't like it?
No, I'm not interested in it. Just my doctor wants to see if I have hemorrhoids. That's it. And that was awkward enough. But no, I had a girl off.
What about eating your ass? Nobody's ever eaten your ass?
No, I did have a girl one time that was really into that, and she made me get on all fours, and she licked my butthole, and it was the weirdest fucking thing ever. I was like, never again. This is so...
I bet you hit her up on the low. Sometimes you're like, please come back and eat my butthole. Nobody will do what you've done for me.
No, it's so demasculating. It was so weird. Like, I don't get it when guys
That's what I said. If I eat your ass, I own you now.
Yeah, no thank you. Like, I'm an alpha male too, and I like calling the shots, and I can't have like me doing like weird gay shit. Like, I've heard all sorts of weird stuff, like some men like their women to put a strap on and fuck them in the ass. It's like, if you want to get fucked in the ass, like, just be gay, just own it, right? That's
my fantasy. Where's my unicorn?
To fuck a guy in
Where
his ass?
can I peg you? Where are you?
Oh my god, jeez. So what other fantasies do you have? Is there anything else that you haven't done that you want to do sexually?
Well, I haven't had a threesome, haven't had an orgy. I'm pretty vanilla. I'm not gonna lie.
What do you think your body count is?
Maybe like 20.
That's it. 20.
25 at most.
Wow. Well, I used to be a man whore, but past couple months I slowed up a lot because I just got sick of constantly going on dates with women.
You're kind of just giving out your energy for free, you know, and you're having meaningless sex, and you feel empty the next day. Because I've done it. I've been a whore. I've had my whore phase. So, I mean, maybe not as much as anybody else, but I consider it my whore phase. So basically, I think that, you know, women think that there's a number that should stop them, but men don't have that. Men are just like out here flaunting. Yeah, I fucked 1,000 women, but if a girl says that, it's like,
she's like a
well,
porn star
you must be fucking for money, or you must be doing something. You can't like sex that much because I mean, even though the guy wants to fuck that much, in his mind,
I think
any girl that likes it that much is automatically a whore in your mind, right?
Well, it's true because I feel like most women that think about sex as like men, they're like that. They're addicted to sex. They're nymphomaniacs. They usually just become porn stars because most women can control it, and they have to have an emotional connection with a man because it's much more psychologically invasive to have someone enter your body versus just sticking your penis in somebody.
Exactly.
And so men, and that's why gay men are such whores, because you have two men, right? And they just want to fuck all the time.
Exactly. And they can do it without
zero effort.
Yeah, no, like, and without any kind of repercussions or, you know, feelings after. But I think that's a lie, because I have a bunch of guy friends who are gay, and at some point you do start to have feelings. If you fuck the person enough, and even if it's casual, you do start to form a connection with that person, whether you like it or not, because we have souls, don't we? You believe in souls.
I believe in the possibility.
You believe in our energy. Energy is real.
Yeah.
So when sex is actually creative energy because it's used to make a life, not just for fornicating. Because if we're doing it for pleasure, it's fornicating. We would have been taken out back in the older days, in the Puritan times. They would have put a big A on my forehead and F on yours for fornicator, and we would have been banned from society, the both of us.
Really? Wow, you have such a
I would have been probably burned at the stake. History.
Yeah, but back in the Middle Ages, you could just fuck whoever you want, and you didn't.
Not if you're a peasant, only if you're a king.
Oh, okay. I guess I was a king then.
Because if you're a peasant, the church runs you. God forbid, you'll be crucified, hung in front of. You'll be, punished in front of everybody. because that's how they used to do the Puritans.
Okay.
You know, the same people running the MAGA party.
All I know is I get my history from Game of Thrones. And Game of Thrones are all just drinking wine and fucking and have brothels everywhere. I mean, brothels is one of the oldest, businesses in the human existence, and I'm a big proponent of that.
I think that sex work should be legal in America.
Well, I agree, 100%.
I think that that's a real job. I think that these women are out here risking their lives like soldiers for sex, because you literally can die fucking people for money, because people don't realize that they think it's glamorous, that it's this or that. Society, who gives a fuck what society thinks? You can catch AIDS, you can catch an STD, you're putting your life on the line. It's just as bad as a pilot. We're all sluts and whores for the right price, but when I mean that, for the patriarch.
We're all whores. We're all working for someone.
We're all pimps and whores. All of us.
I don't give a shit if a girl wants to sell her body for sex. I know I make fun of these sugar babies and OnlyFans people, but at the end of the day...
They're actually more respectable than the people that go to war and kill infants.
Yeah, I mean...
Think about it.
Who kills infants at war on purpose, at least. But
not on purpose, but you're going to end up killing civilians when you go to war. And I don't think that's what people don't understand when they go into the army, that you will end up killing innocent people even if you think you're fighting for the right side. And what is the right side? Yeah. What is the correct side?
I think whatever side is on the side of the U.S., because I'm a patriot. But I don't just blindly think everything the U.S. does.
Do you think that the U.S. is a great country?
I think that anyone that lives in the U.S.
I think we're very blessed.
Yeah, I think we're one of the most powerful countries in the world. And I think anyone that lives in the U.S. and doesn't like it, you're an idiot. You should just leave.
I love it here, but I am very aware of the life outside of this place. And have you watched the Hunger Games?
Yes.
Okay, remember the capital?
Yeah.
America's the capital. The rest of the world is the districts.
Well, good. I'd rather live in the capital, baby. But my point is, there is a lot of corruption in the government, but there's a lot of countries that are even just as corrupt or more corrupt than the U.S., and they have a lot less freedom.
My grandfather always said, don't trust the government. And he actually worked for the CIA. And to get out of the CIA, he had to be declared insane.
But it's not just the U.S. government. All world governments conspire together. You have the elites or the cabal, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, people are saying, the New World Order is coming. No, the New World Order's been in place. It's been there forever.
I mean, look,
it's been happening before your eyes.
Yeah, most of these wars, like the Vietnam War, right, and Iraq War.
And my grandfather fought in the Vietnam War. And you know what? After finding out years later, he actually realized that it was a fucking sham. It was a lie.
Most of it's
bullshit.
It's all propaganda to increase profits and make the rich more powerful. And I think, just like COVID, right? You had all these politicians that pretty much turned into actors trying to tell you how good the vaccine is. And meanwhile, trillions of dollars were made for the pharma companies. So it's all a lot of it's propaganda. And that's why so many people hate Trump and are afraid of Trump, because he's trying to expose the truth. And he doesn't need the money from the elites. He has his own billions of dollars. And, I'm not saying he's a perfect guy, but he's the most pro-American president that we've had in my lifetime. And he's trying to expose some of the corruption. And that's why they all...
So you don't care that he's got 50 felonies and that a guy who down the street has 50 felonies can't even go work at Burger King?
I don't know Trump's history as far as felonies. Obviously, he's probably never done anything that bad if he's not in jail and he's a president of the U.S.
No, honey, that's money.
Yeah.
Money will make
unfortunately,
you...
it's a world we live.
Money polishes you real nice, because if that happened to you, you'd be canceled.
I'm not saying he's a perfect guy, but at least
the fall from grace.
At least he's not a career politician that tells everyone what they want to hear. He's actually trying to do things that he ran on. Okay, so you can think of what you want from him, but at the end of the day, majority of the U.S. voted for him, and he is implementing the things that he ran on, securing the border, trying to lower taxes, doing all the trade war and stuff like that.
Deporting children.
I think if you're here illegally, you should be deported. Sorry. But at least he's going after criminals first. So I think most people would agree.
Yes, because judges and doctors and children are criminals, everybody.
I think the majority of people that he's deporting are criminals first.
Let's hope.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. But anyone that's here illegally, because there's so many people that want to be here.
I really suggest that you read Animal Farm.
Okay.
I know you read it back in middle school, but you should definitely read it again. And those of you who are watching, read Animal Farm one more time. I know you probably read it in middle school, but read it again.
Sounds like
See how you feel.
Sounds like it's a book written by a bunch of lefties, but maybe I'll give it a shot. But
you got to expand your mind.
Yeah, I'll expand. Because
I understand, I understand that Make America Great Again, but when was America ever great? It was only great for white people. It was only great for
let's
white
not get
men.
into this. Well, yeah. I mean, we could go back and forth with this. I think now, I'm not talking about the 1950s and all that. I'm saying right now is some of the best time in the U.S. history to be a minority.
Really? I thought it was an exodus happening right now.
You have more black millionaires now than ever before. Okay,
well,
and you have, if you want to be successful, it's not about black or white. It's about rich and poor. We all know that. You're not an idiot.
Of course.
So it's about the privilege, the haves and have-nots. It doesn't matter if you're Mexican, Chinese, black, white. It's not about black and white. If you're Will Smith's kid, do you think he's impoverished? No.
No,
of course not, right? So there's so
many peasants compared to Will Smith's
no,
kids.
But I'm saying most people there's so many, most of these ballers I see with the yachts cruising around the Miami River, or a lot of black people, a lot of minorities. So I agree. Back in the day, it was worse, but I think now, the past 10 years and now is some of the best time in the world to be a minority, and you have a lot of opportunities to get into colleges. You have affirmative action, DEI, all that stuff. But my point
DEI got canceled, actually.
Well, I don't believe in DEI. I believe that you should hire people based on skill and not race. And I think most of my black friends would agree that they don't want to get hired just because they're black. They want to get hired because they went through college and they have the best resume and they're the best person for the job. Do you want a person flying your airplane that got hired just because he's black? No, if he's not experienced. So I think that, and there's been a lot of accidents.
That's not possible because you have to go through so much training.
It is. No,
just
it is
to become
possible
a pilot, so
because you could have the minimum. It does. You could have the minimum experience, which is not safe, in my opinion, not really safe to have the minimum, or you could hire someone that has a lot more experience. Wasn't
it recently that they started defunding things from the FAA?
No, I'm not sure about that, but that has nothing to do with pilots. That was an air traffic control thing. But my point is that if you're flying an airplane, you should hire the most qualified.
Control it does go hand in hand. I mean, that's the one who tells you where to land.
But that wasn't about black and white. That was just a government trying to save money. But what I'm saying,
so that's what you think. You think the government was just trying to save money when they cut FAA funds. They weren't onto something else.
They were saving money.
There was an agenda behind that.
I don't know. I don't know the politics behind it, but all I know
is
we're talking about airplanes.
You were a pilot.
We're talking about pilots.
You really are that naive. You don't think that there's something happening in the background. You think it's just, we're just budget cuts.
Yeah.
Budget cuts on education, budget cuts in the FAA. We're taking away DEI. We're cutting Medicaid,
that was
Social
Biden
Security.
that cut the FAA funding, by the way. But my point is that you don't want a pilot that is less experienced flying your plane just because they got hired because they're a female.
Of course not.
Of course, it's a safety issue.
And honestly, that would never happen because you have to go through so many hours of training.
You know that the airplane that just flipped over in Toronto, that was an inexperienced female pilot that did that and almost killed everyone on board.
Really?
Yes. So you're wrong. This is my profession. I've been doing this for 20 years.
But they have to go through so many hours of simulating.
It doesn't matter. They push people through because they're afraid if they fire them, they're going to get a fucking lawsuit because they got fired because they're a female or black. It happens all the time. So don't give me this bullshit just because that they have the minimum training that they're going to be a qualified and good pilot. That's bullshit. Once to be good,
I never said it was a minimum.
Yeah, but you're saying that can't happen because there's a minimum. Just because someone ekes through training with the minimum requirements possible doesn't mean they're a competent and safe pilot. Okay, there's a lot of people slipping through the cracks in flight training that should not be pilots because they don't have the command authority decision. They're just not good aviators, and they get pushed through because of DEI, and it's not safe. All right. So unfortunately, that's the world that we're living in, and I believe that that's just not a good thing. People die from that.
Well, that's an interesting argument because I didn't know. I really thought that they had to go through that extensive amount of training. They do go through training,
but just because someone goes through training doesn't mean they're good.
So what if is the examiner held responsible for passing them?
No. Yeah, the examiners, no. If let's say they get through training and they crash a plane a year later, no, the examiner's not responsible. There's lots of different checks that they go through, but like I said, the airlines.
And what if it wasn't pilot error? What if it was mechanical error?
It could be, but most accidents happen because of pilot error. Are you sure in
Toronto it was pilot error?
Yes, positive. Yeah, she didn't flare.
Pulled it up.
No, we can do it later, but she didn't flare. She landed on the plane, didn't flare, dropped the wheel, and the plane flipped over. Now, I'm not saying all girl pilots are bad.
What would you have done in that position?
I'm not saying I would have done a go-around. I'm not saying all female pilots are bad. Obviously, there's a lot. All I'm saying is that you shouldn't hire someone based on their race or sex. You should hire someone based on how experienced they are.
No, and their skills. And if they are a very good pilot, then they deserve to have the job.
And just because someone passes flight school doesn't mean they're a good pilot. I've 15,000 hours. I've been doing this for 20 years. you can argue with me about a lot of things, but you can't argue with me about flying. This is my blood. It's what I've been doing my whole life. So you can't argue with me about flying.
Is anybody else a pilot in your family?
No. No one else.
You're the first. Congratulations.
Yeah. And it's like I said, it's not about rich. It's not about black or white. It's rich or poor. And I grew up really poor. I put myself through flight school. You know, I put myself through college. I had no help, no mentors, and I became, you know, a self-made millionaire by grinding out. And I've created multiple companies before. So anyone
that's admirable.
Anyone in the U.S., I believe we live in the best country in the world, where if you want to build wealth and you're ambitious, it doesn't matter if your father does crack or he worked at McDonald's. It doesn't fucking matter. If you have enough drive and persistence, you can make yourself successful. And that's part of the reason why I love the U.S. So with that said, we're pretty much out of time. So
thank you so much, Jeff. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
All right. Well,
going back and forth.
Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. As much as I think you're a weirdo, you're still pretty cool. So
thanks. I think you're pretty cool too.
Yeah. So I'm going to be skipping next week because it's my birthday. I'm going to be going to Vegas and traveling around Jersey and visiting family. So you guys could tune in the week after next.
Happy early birthday.
Thank you for episode 7. So thanks for joining us.